A look back into the past, we see a time when Cry showed his collection of relics to his party members. They look at them in awe, and Liz tells Cry to fulfill his promise of helping her pick one out for herself. Luke says that it's not fair, and they all start trying all sorts of different relics in front of them. Citri asks Cry about a small bag, and Cry says that it's a magic bag, which can hold an infinite amount of items. Citri says that it must have cost a fortune to get a bag like this, but Cry reveals that it was pretty cheap, because it can only hold chocolates. Then Liz shows Cry a bracelet she picked up, and asks him about it, but before Cry can say anything, she feels wobbly and falls on the floor. Liz tries to get back up, but the bracelet makes her fall again, and Cry explains that it's a labyrinth ring, which causes the wearer to lose all sense of balance. Just then Luke picks up a sword, and says that it's cool, but Cry says that it is a cursed sword, and it makes Luke go crazy. Cry praises Luke by saying that normally this sword makes people lose their minds, but Luke is acting just like he always does, because he doesn't have a mind to lose. With this they find out that all these relics are just a bunch of trash, but because they all think of Cry as this cool leader, Luke and Liz pick up their relics as training items. Back to the present, everyone feels relieved to have Cry with them, and they start following him while making their way through the cave. Cry wonders why they are all making him lead the way, because it is his first time there, and Cry doesn't know where he is going. Cry turns around to ask Tino to switch with him, but as he looks back, everyone else starts looking back as well, because they think that Cry must have noticed something suspicious. After that they continue walking forward, and Cry wonders if Tino is mad at him, and if he should get on the ground and apologize. However, Gilbert speaks up, and asks Cry if they're going to the exit. Cry thinks about how he wants to go to the exit as well, but Cry doesn't know the way. Before Cry can reply, Tino says that she has a vague idea of the cave's layout from the map they saw before walking inside the cave, and according to that, there is no way that this path leads to the exit. Tino thinks that Cry must be testing them, and says that if they want to find the exit, they would have to walk back to the boss room. Cry wonders if those giant white wolves were the bosses, and Cry realizes that that must have been why they were so strong. They continue walking forward, and Cry thinks that it's about time he makes a turn to go back. But everyone becomes shocked, and they wonder how Cry knew about their location, and they rush forward. Cry wonders what they're talking about, and walks back to see that they found the party they needed to search for in the rescue mission, and they treated their wounds. Their leader introduced himself as Dave, and thanks the group for rescuing them. Tino says that he should thank their master Cry, because Cry is the one who predicted all this and led them there. However, Cry says that it was all just a coincidence, which makes everyone say that Cry is just really humble. Ruta says that she replenishes the mana with potions, but they will still need something to eat if they want to recover their health. Cry pulls out some of his chocolate bars and gives them to everyone. Cry also offers a special bar to Tino and tells her to eat these dark chocolates too, which makes her think that Cry is a god. After that, Greg says that he didn't think that a party of level 5 treasure hunters would be hurt by those half-masked wolves. Dave says that those wolf knights weren't the problem, because they were defeated by a single small phantom with a full-bone face. Dave calls it the embodiment of grudge, which makes everyone except Cry surprise. In the meantime, we see the masked phantom walk up to the pack of wolf knights from earlier. It unleashes its power to make them howl, with purple flames and glow surrounding them. Dave continues his story by saying that the phantom must be the curse of the Silver Moon and was born out of the grudge of monsters that were slain in the treasure vault. Dave says that they are confident in their skills, but that monster was just on another level. It was especially disrespectful, because the monster just soloed them. Dave says that the phantom might even be at the level of the legendary Thousand Swords, and this shocks everyone. Cry says that the Thousand Swords is the title of the strongest swordsman in the imperial capital, who mastered all forms of swordsmanship, and is said to be able to cut down any enemy with just a wooden sword. Cry thinks about how the Thousand Swords is actually one of his childhood friends, and a party member of Grievers named Luke. Cry believes that the Phantom of Grudges is pretty strong, but saying that it is on Luke's level is just an exaggeration. If that were true, Luke would have already slain it, but it might still be too difficult for Tino. Dave says that the first time they encountered the Phantom, it just played with them like toys, and the next time they won't survive for sure. Ruta asks Cry about their next move, and Cry says that before they face the Phantom, they need to look for a way out of the cave. However, Tino is their leader for this mission, so they should follow her lead. Tino says that she is nothing but dust compared to Cry, but Cry says that he will help her if needed, while thinking to himself that it is just too scary to lead the way. This gives Tino a lot of confidence, and Tino says that she can now run fine because her leg is healed. However, Cry reminds Tino that they have injured members, so they should be mindful of them. In reality, Cry knows that they just can't keep up with her speed if Tino starts running for real. Dave says that if they encounter the Phantom, he will act as a human shield, and Dave begs the others to escort his friends to the capo if that happens. However, one of his party members stops him and says that he will act as a human shield instead. Tino declares that she has no intention of leaving anyone behind, and as long as their master is with them, they will be all right. Just then they hear the wolves howling in the distance, and wonder if they are getting closer. Cry checks his rings, and notices that he only has 5 safe rings left, which means he would go down for real if he gets hit a 6th time. Cry's shot ring doesn't seem to be working either, and Cry lost Citri's slime as well. Besides that, Cry dropped the relic sword that he attached to his waist on the way here, and Cry wonders if he is actually screwed this time. Meanwhile, we see a masked figure walking through the mist in the cave. Gilbert and Greg stay on the lookout for attacks from the wolves and the Phantom. Just then Tino notices something strong coming their way, and Dave prepares to attack as well, but Cry stands in front of them. Cry thinks that if he uses Night Hiker to launch himself like a missile, he will lose 1 life, but it might help them take out the Phantom with a surprise attack. Soon the Phantom reveals itself from the mist, with purple flames behind it. Its sight makes Ruta and Gilbert really scared, and Tino looks from behind Cry's back as well. But then Tino notices the masked figure from earlier, and it makes her freak out really bad. Tino holds onto Cry's cape, and begs him to help her. Tino says that she will be a good girl who will do her best, and asks Cry to save her this once. Just then Cry wonders why some masked girl is there as well. The Phantom looks back to see who is there, but the masked girl vanishes, and kicks the Phantom pretty hard. It turns out that the girl is actually part of the Grieving Souls, named Liz, and Liz walks up to Cry and asks him if that was their new member. Cry says that it wasn't, and asks Liz to take her mask off. Liz gives him the relic sword that Cry lost on the way, while the others wonder who she is. This makes Liz really mad, and she wonders how they never heard of the strongest party in the entire empire, and Liz wonders if they're imposters. Liz was really sad because when she went to the capital to find Cry, she was told that he was in this cave. Liz is embarrassed because of her apprentice, and she walks up to Tino and scolds her. Gilbert tries to stick up for Tino, but Liz kicks Gilbert very hard. Liz points out that she is busy apologizing to Cry for having a pathetic, useless, waste of space apprentice. Then Liz gets back to scolding Tino, and makes her feel bad for being born in this world. But Cry defends Tino by saying that she did her mission, and was a decent leader as well. This makes Liz calm down a bit, and Liz tells Tino that she is talented after all. However, Tino lacks motivation, and the will to die for her goals. Just then the Phantom gets up, and summons one of the Wolf Knights with a machine gun, scaring everyone. The wolf shoots them with a bunch of bullets, but Liz sighs and says that because of Tino, everyone thinks that she is weak as well. Then Liz uses her insane speed to catch all the bullets, and stacks them on the ground around her in a pattern. Everyone is amazed by this, and Liz says that such old weapons mean nothing to her, and that they are no big deal. Liz walks right up to the Wolf Knight, and says whether they were armor or not, these are mere mobs, and they can be slain in whatever way you want. Then Liz blows the monster up with 1 attack. After that the Phantom attacks her with its sword, but Liz catches it in her fingers, and says that swords are useless as well. She can catch them, break them, and even play around with them. Liz wonders why Tino can't do all this, while kicking the Phantom into the air, and then sending it into the ground with a punch. Then Liz gets on top of it, and beats the Phantom to the dust, until the Phantom turns into a real ghost. After Tino cries from all the trash talk, Cry starts feeling bad for Tino. Then Cry welcomes Liz back, after Liz is done taking her anger out on the Phantom. Afterwards they return to the town, where Gilbert decides to give the Purgatory Sword to Thousand Tricks. Gilbert says that he will continue training with his old team, and one day he will be able to catch bullets like Liz. No one believes Gilbert can do it, and Tino says that if he really wants to be like Liz, then Gilbert should know that their masks are specially made. This takes back to 6 years ago when Cry made their masks, and it turns out that Cry messed up the order. Cry forgot to tell the mask maker to cut holes for their eyes, but everyone went along with it, because they thought that Cry did it on purpose. They thought it was a special feature to protect them from enemies' blinding attacks, and if they could learn to walk around in those, they would grow even stronger. Back in the present, Cry seems to be looking for something, and says he can't find it anywhere. Cry walks outside and hopes to forget about it. Now that one crisis has been resolved, remember the shitai slime that Cry used as a distraction? It was created by one of Cry's childhood friends, Shitai, who is the world's greatest alchemist. One of her lab experiments led to the creation of this slime, so Shitai decided it would be safer to give it to Cry to keep it safe. At the time, Cry had no problem holding onto it since it looked like a harmless vial of slime, but when he tried opening it, Shitai warned him not to because that thing could destroy the capital if it was released. And as you know, Cry released it. Cry is still in denial and hopes the slime will magically appear back in his room, but he has no such luck. Cry sits on his bed and decides to think about this rationally. When Cry opened the vial in the White Wolf's den, it looked like nothing was there. Cry has locked up the vial in his safe ever since Shitai gave it to him. So the only conclusion is that the vial must have always been empty, so there is nothing to worry about, at least Cry hopes so. Meanwhile, back in the White Wolf den, the association sent an investigation team because something strange is going on there, and they have to get to the bottom of it. Cry was so worried about the slime that he could barely get any sleep last night, and as Cry is walking through the halls, he happens to run into Eva, and she tells him that Gark wants him to give a detailed report on what happened in the White Wolf den. Cry doesn't want to give a report, so he asks if Tino can do it instead since she is technically the team leader for that mission. Eva initially wanted to ask Tino as well, but she is busy training with Liz right now in the training hall, and Eva isn't stupid, so she is not going anywhere there. Then Cry asks Eva if she has heard about any strange occurrence in the capital lately, but Eva has no idea what Cry is talking about since the capital has been pretty quiet. Cry says it's fine if nothing happens because he is actually hoping things stay calm, but now Cry has brought it up. Eva says she will dedicate all her resources to investigating to find any anomalies. Cry tries to talk her out of it because he doesn't want her to find out that he lost Shitai's slime. To get out of the conversation, Cry says he wants to go check on Tino in the training hall. As Cry leaves, Eva thinks about all the time she spent working with Cry, and despite his lazy attitude whenever it comes to natural disasters, treasure vault anomalies, or even politics, Cry has always been able to make accurate predictions with little information. At first, Eva thought it might just be a coincidence, but after Cry has been right so many times, Eva believes in him wholeheartedly, and if Cry is worried about something happening in the capital, then something serious must be going on. As Cry heads down to the training hall, he sees a bunch of hunters waiting outside, and once their leader notices him, he asks for help since none of them have been able to train at all today because Liz is training. Sven asks him to find a way to get her to stop, but Liz is scared when she is worked up, so Cry doesn't want to deal with her. Sven understands Cry's feelings because no one likes dealing with Liz in battle mode, but none of the other grievers is back yet, and if he tries to stop her himself, Liz may very well kill Sven, so Cry is the only option remaining. And if Cry doesn't stop Liz, Tino might end up dying because of her. Cry thinks Sven is just exaggerating because there is no way Liz would ever really kill Tino, but as Cry opens the door, he sees Tino laid out on the floor and Liz on the verge of killing her for being weak. Liz is angry that Tino is unable to move, so she raises her leg and is about to smash Tino's skull in, but just before Liz does, Cry interrupts her. Liz is happy to see Cry, but she is kind of in the middle of something, so Liz asks Cry not to bother her. Liz thinks Tino has a lot of potential, but she keeps acting so weak and complaining about things like broken bones. Back when Liz was a kid, she used to be so much stronger than Tino is now, so Liz doesn't understand what is holding her back. Cry agrees that Liz was stronger than this at Tino's age, but Tino is clearly past her limit for now, so Cry suggests that Liz should cut today's practice short and give Tino a break. Liz gets up in Cry's face and asks if he is trying to stop her from training Tino, and Cry answers that he is, so Liz agrees and says she will leave Tino alone for now. But even though Liz is willing to let Tino go, Tino doesn't want to look weak in front of Cry, so she drags herself up and says she can keep going. At this point, there is nothing Cry can do to stop Liz anymore, so he just locks the door and tells Sven and the others that they aren't going to be able to use the training hall for today. Sven accepts that there is nothing he can do, but it is not all bad, since Tino getting stronger would be a good thing. Since Cry is done here, he is about to leave, but before Cry does, Sven stops him and mentions that the northern route has been overrun with phantoms. A party from the Knight's Order was sent out to investigate it, but the party was crushed in the process. Cry remembers hearing something about the Traveler being attacked by phantoms near the White Wolf Den, and now that he thinks about it, there is definitely something off about it, which is probably why Gark wants to meet with him. But Cry doesn't want to have to work, so he wishes Ark were here to deal with it instead. Ark is smart, strong, and people trust him both as a leader and as a fighter, so Cry is sure Ark will be able to fix this once he gets back. Until then, Cry intends to stall for as much time as possible, so he doesn't get assigned to the case. Sven sees the calm look on Cry's face and thinks he is already coming up with a plan to solve the problem, but in reality Cry is just planning to send Sven to Gark in hopes that Gark assigns the mission to him instead. Cry casually suggests that Sven should head over to Gark's office and take on a mission since he can't train today, and Cry also wants Sven to tell Gark that Cry is too busy to attend a meeting with him. With that, Cry gets up and walks away, but Sven is having a hard time figuring out what Cry is thinking. Sven's Jr. doesn't see what is so special about Cry, because to him Cry looks like a leader who sits back and lets his subordinates do all the work for him. Sven says Cry has always been like that, but what's important is that he is always working behind the scenes to keep the clan running smoothly. Sven advises the Jr. not to underestimate Cry, because that man is a monster where he needs to be. In Gark's office he has just received a report stating that the veins near the White Wolf Den are unchanged. But that doesn't answer the question of what is causing all these incidents to occur. Gark wants to talk to Cry about this, but his assistant tells him that Cry is too busy to meet with him, so Gark intends to pay Cry a personal visit later so he can't avoid the topic. Gark believes Cry knows something about the incident since he never willingly heads into vaults, but recently said he was heading to the vault to check out the situation there, so something big must be going on. Cry has no idea about any of this, but something big is going on down in the vault. The Akashic Tower has been conducting experiments down here, but because of all the recent suspicion from the association, they are worried that their operation will be discovered any day now. The device they created taps into the vast amount of power flowing in the veins and stores it here, creating modifications to the vault. If the Grand Wizard's theory is correct, then with this, you should be able to create treasure vaults at will. However, the research is still incomplete, so he cannot afford to lose his lab to the association. His followers ask why Sophia isn't here since she is the one in charge of the defenses for this place, but the Grand Wizard says it's not her fault since he was the one who approved her vacation time. But he has already sent a message for her to return immediately, so she should be back soon. Grand Wizard is sure that once Sophia arrives, she will resolve their trouble with the association snooping, but until then, the Grand Wizard says they all need to gather as much information as possible. Cry has a nightmare about a terrible catastrophe caused by Citri's slime, and when Cry wakes up he begins panicking again because he still doesn't know how dangerous that slime is. Cry's panicking also happens to wake Liz up, and Cry is confused as to why she is here, but then again Liz sneaks into bed with him all the time, so it's not out of her character. Since they are both awake, Liz asks if Cry is busy today because she was hoping they could go out together, but Cry thinks Liz had plans to train Tino today. Liz says she is giving Tino a break to heal from all her injuries, since neither of them has much to do today. Cry doesn't see the harm in going out on a date with Liz, and it's a good opportunity to get his mind off the nightmare he just had. Meanwhile, Gark has just shown up looking for Cry, and the receptionist is surprised that Gark personally came all this way, but Gark knows Cry will just keep avoiding him otherwise. Just then Cry and Liz come downstairs, and Liz is pissed to see Gark here since she doesn't want anything ruining her date with Cry. Gark tries to be polite and asks Liz what happened to the Night Palace vault, which she was meant to even report on, but Liz ignores his question and begins insulting him for always relying on Cry so much. Gark is starting to lose his patience, and when Liz throws a kick at him, that is the final point, so Gark rolls up his sleeves and is ready to teach her a lesson. While that is going on, Cry doesn't want to be here, so Cry asks Gark's assistant if she wants to come upstairs with him. While Cry and Kana are having their chat, she briefs him on the results of their reconnaissance. Cry thinks it's good that veins are normal, but Cry is far more concerned about the other issue at hand. Kana is confused and asks what Cry means by the other issue. However, Cry doesn't want to tell Kana that he released a slime that might destroy the country, so Cry tells Kana that the details are still confidential. Cry tells Kana he would like to go investigate it more, but he is busy today, so maybe Kana should ask Gark to do it, mainly because Cry could never handle an actual mission on his own. Meanwhile, Gark and Liz are still going at it downstairs, and while Gark is a lot stronger than Liz, Liz is much faster than Gark, so he hasn't been able to land a successful hit on her. Liz taunts Gark for letting himself get so out of shape with all his desk duty, but this only makes Gark madder, so Gark is ready to throw everything he has at Liz. Gark used to be known as a top-class level 7 hunter before he retired, and his strength is still worthy of that title, but Cry tells both Gark and Liz to quit fighting before they destroy this place. Gark is still pissed at Liz, but Liz immediately goes over to Cry and forgets all about her fight with Gark. Cry and Liz head out on their date, and as they walk, Liz remarks that Gark has let himself go in recent years. Cry doesn't think it is fair to call him weak, since Liz still gets to train often since she is on active duty, while Gark has to deal with all the paperwork now. Still, Liz says there is no way Gark would make it through the Night Palace vault in his current state, so Cry asks Liz if the monsters in that vault were really that strong. The rest of the members are still in a Night Palace vault, but Cry wishes they would get back here soon, since he could use some help dealing with the slime situation. Just then Liz hands Cry her bag and dashes off to tackle a man in the middle of the street. Cry asks Liz what she is doing, so Liz explains that this guy is staring at them suspiciously. Cry doesn't think that is a good enough reason to tackle a guy, so Cry tells Liz to let him go. Cry asks the guy if he is alright, but the guy just runs away and Cry has no idea why. Liz is confused and asks why Cry would let someone who was obviously up to no good escape, but then she realizes that Cry must have been intentionally ignoring him because he has a plan, so Liz apologizes for taking action without asking him first. Meanwhile, the guy finds his way into a secluded shop, and he is a part of the Akashic Tower, but he doesn't understand how he got spotted, since he was following them at a safe distance, and the fact that Cry let him go after he was caught leads the man to assume Cry knows all about their operation. The next day Liz is excited to be out on another date with Cry, but Cry reminds her that this time they aren't out on a date. They are in the most dangerous part of the Imperial Capital, and Cry has brought Liz here because he is looking for something. According to the information Cry got from Eva, there have been a lot of incidents where people have gone missing here. And while it may just be the usual murders and kidnappings common to the area, Cry worried the disappearances might have something to do with Citri's slime because that would mean the incidents here are his fault. Additionally, Eva's report also says there is a new ice cream shop up ahead, so Cry suggests that he and Liz should go try some, and Liz is more than happy to accompany him. As they approach the ice cream shop, the man from yesterday watches them, and he is freaking out. No one should have ever been able to figure out that this new ice cream shop is really a base for the Akashic Tower's research, but somehow Cry managed to find this place. The guy tries to calm himself down and decides to close up the shop until Cry leaves in an attempt to maintain the secrecy of the base, but before he can do that, Sophia walks into the room. Sophia just got back from her mission and she can see that the guy is panicking, so Sophia asks him what's wrong. A few minutes later, Cry and Liz arrived at the ice cream shop, but by the time they got here, the Akashic Tower member had already shut the place down. Liz is pissed because the shop is closed since it is ruining her chance to enjoy ice cream with Cry, so she is prepared to bust the door down right now, and the Akashic member is freaking out inside. Just before Liz destroys any property, Cry stops her and suggests that the shop might just be out of ice cream, so maybe it's best if they just leave it alone for now. Back at the clan office, Liz is disappointed that she couldn't have ice cream with Cry, but Cry is still deep in thought over the possibility that Citri's slime might still be on the loose somewhere in the city, and he really needs to do something about it. Cry turns to Liz and asks her when Citri will be getting back from the Night Palace vault, because there is something he wants to discuss with her. Citri isn't going to be back anytime soon, so Liz offers to assist Cry in any way she can. But what Cry means is information on a specific magical creature, so Liz can't help him with that. Just then, Eva enters Cry's office, and she has come to inform him that she has brought a list of hunter candidates to join the investigation of the White Wolf Den. Sven and the other members of Obsidian Cross are already on site, but Ark is absent at the moment, so Eva needs Cry to approve the list. Eva tries to hand it to him, but Cry doesn't even look at the list because he doesn't want to get involved, so Cry tells Eva that he is trusting her to handle it herself. Meanwhile, the Akashic Tower members hold a meeting to discuss the fact that Cry discovered their secret base. The place was perfectly disguised in a rundown part of town, yet Cry easily found it. On top of that, he must have deliberately acted like he thought it was a regular ice cream shop to send a message that he was several steps ahead of them. Since they don't know what Cry's intentions are, everyone is panicked and unsure of how to proceed moving forward. So the leader turns to Sophia and asks her if she has any good ideas. Sophia doesn't seem as worried as the others and calmly states that they should go to war with Cry's clan. The other Akashic members are shocked and ask her if she really thinks they stand a chance against them, to which Sophia responds that the Akashic Tower is the seeker of truth, so no matter who they are up against, they must never back down. Even if their opponent is a group of high-level hunters, in fact this is the perfect opportunity for her to test out her new defense, and if they manage to wipe out the entire Cry party, then there will be no one left to oppose them. The leader finds her argument compelling, not to mention that if they have truly been discovered by Cry, then there is no way they make it out of this without putting up a fight. Leader tells Sophia that she is free to do as she pleases, and Sophia is really happy to hear that, because that means she can finally have some fun. At the same time, Tino has finally recovered from her near-death encounter with Liz's training, and while Tino knows Liz wasn't trying to kill her, she almost did make it out alive, so Tino decides to celebrate her recovery by taking a walk around town. While walking, Tino notices a couple of carriages parked in the street, and even the clan hall is completely packed with hunters. Tino goes up to one of the hunters and asks what all this is about, so he tells her that the association has organized a joint effort to investigate the White Wolf Den. Even if that is the case, Tino still thinks that having this many people is overkill, But the guy tells her that Cry initially wanted to send Ark, and all these people are just replacements to make up for Ark's absence. Ark is one of the top level 7 hunters in the world, so without him they need a huge number of people to make up for the firepower. A little while later, Eva brings Cry out to greet the hunters, but Cry has no idea why everyone is gathered here to begin with. Eva tells Cry that Ark isn't here to handle the White Wolf Den investigation, so she takes the liberty of gathering enough hunters to compensate for Ark's strength. Cry remembers trying to dump this mission to Ark, but that was just because he is a nice guy whom Cry thinks is reliable, so Cry never imagined that Eva would end up calling this many people to replace him. To begin with, Cry is not sure he even has enough money to pay for all these people, so Cry tries suggesting they should split the group in half. Everyone starts panicking because there is no way they will be able to survive a high-level threat with just half of their forces, and Cry is confused. They are so worked up about this. They ask Cry to please reconsider his decision, so Cry asks Eva if they have enough money to cover everyone's reward, and Eva tells him there is no need to worry about that since Gark already requested additional funding for the association. However, even if the money issue is resolved, Cry still doesn't feel comfortable sending all these people into the vault, while Citri's slime might be down there. Since Cry is not going to explain that to them, he just agrees to let them go, and if anything bad happens, Cry will act like he wasn't involved. Just then Liz shows up and begins mocking all the hunters for being scared to go into the vault with a small group because if it was her, she would have just gone alone. Liz goes over to Cry and offers to take the mission instead, but Cry firmly tells her no. Cry already knows if he gives Liz the mission, she will drag Tino along, and Cry doesn't want Tino to go through that. Also, Liz has never been one to work well with others, so if Liz were to go to the vault, she would end up causing far more harm to the other parties there. Cry says everyone here aside from Liz is going to handle the mission, so Eva asks if that means Cry is going to be joining the mission as well. The hunters overhear this, and they are all excited because if the level 8 clan master were to join them, then the mission would definitely go a lot smoother, but Cry really doesn't want to go. Since everyone is insisting, Cry says he will join them, but Cry makes an excuse about having urgent business to attend to, so he is leaving Sven in charge of the group until he joins them later. However, Cry has no intention of showing up until after the mission is almost over. Meanwhile, in the White Wolf Den, Sven and the rest of Obsidian Cross are pretty underwhelmed by the difficulty of this vault. Sure, the average strength of the monsters here has increased, but is still relatively tame, so they are not sure why they were sent here. Back at the association, everyone is getting ready to leave and Liz is still begging Cry to let her go on the mission with him, but Cry remains firm on his decision, although Cry knows Liz will just go there anyway if he leaves Liz on her own, so Cry says he has a separate job for her to do in the meantime, and that seems to cheer her up a bit. Before the group leaves, the temporary captain goes over to Cry and asks him if there is any advice he can give them before they head out, so Cry thinks about it for a second and tells him that if he comes across a slime-like creature, he should treat it with extreme caution. The guy doesn't think there is any chance that the group will run into a slime down in the White Wolf Den, but he says he will keep Cry's advice in mind. Back at the Akashic Towers base, Leader is beside himself with rage at the fact that the association is coming after him in such large numbers. But if they intend to stand in the way of his mana material research, then he is going to do everything in his power to crush them. The tower members are worried because their opponents have the grieving souls on their side, but Sophia tells everyone there is nothing to worry about since her defense system was specifically made to repel attacks such as these. Besides, there are currently only 3 grieving souls in the capital, Cry, Liz, and Citri. Liz can easily be taken care of by creating countermeasures against her physical attacks, and Cry is the strategist of the team, so Cry isn't able to fully utilize his skills unless his other teammates are present. The only real problem here is Citri. Sophia has taken measures to ensure that Citri's alchemy won't be effective against them, but Sophia has a personal grudge against Citri, so no matter what, Sophia is going to make sure she can crush her. Sophia tells Leader that Citri has been snooping around his research ever since she found his thesis, and Sophia finds that to be unforgivable, so Sophia asks for permission to use everything that they have created up till now to stop Citri. Leader agrees to give her permission and says that Flick and all the other members are to follow Sophia's orders no matter what, which Flick isn't happy to hear since he doesn't like Sophia, but Flick complies for the good of their mission. Elsewhere in the White Wolf Den, Sven's team is starting to think there was no point in coming here since they haven't found anything unusual, and they trust Sven's judgment, but it seems like Cry just randomly sent them here for no reason. Sven understands why they may think that, but he is sure Cry has a good reason for sending him here. Just then Sven gets a message relaying the warning Cry gave about a slime and takes it very seriously, so Sven asks Henrik to blow the emergency whistle. All the hunters in the vault hear the whistle and immediately head outside, but when they find out that the reason the whistle was blown was because of a random slime, they are pretty pissed. They think it is ridiculous that Sven blindly believes all information that comes from Cry, but Sven has good reason for his faith in Cry. Sven doesn't know what danger this unknown slime may pose, so Sven thought it would be much safer to wait until reinforcements arrive before they continue with the investigation. The other hunter still thinks it's ridiculous since the slime would never appear in a vault like this, but if it is a warning from Cry, Sven is sure it is accurate. In the past, Cry randomly invited him to a flower viewing party, but Cry also instructed him to bring his weapons with him for no particular reason. At the time Sven was really confused, but when the time finally came for the flower viewing party to begin, the vault manifested right where they were standing. That vault is now known as the Prism Garden, and the fact that Cry predicted that convinced Sven that Cry must be able to see into the future. So from then on, no matter how crazy Cry's instructions may be, Sven obeys every word Cry says. Back at Cry's office, Liz is pestering him because she wants to know what special mission he has planned for her. But Cry's got nothing. Cry just made up the excuse to get her to stay here, but now he doesn't know what to say. Just then Liz hears someone at Cry's door, and it turns out to be Citri, who just got back to town. Citri wasn't supposed to return for a while, but she had a bad feeling that a powerful organization was about to make a big move, so Citri wanted to offer her assistance. So now what will happen next? Subscribe to our channel to find out what will happen next. So friends, if you liked our recap video, then please like and share this video and do not forget to subscribe to the channel. Thank you for watching.